G'day subscribers, what does an FJ Holden have in common with an E-Type Jag and a Ferrari? You're with Jules Knight and our apprentice shop dog Elodie on Jive Talking Garage. So we've swapped dogs and we want to talk about the commonality between those cars that I've mentioned. Now, I've spoken to members before and said Holden's made the cars. They designed everything and they put it all together in the factory. And so it was a case of, they would design parts and components as well as the accessories. But if they saw accessories that were already on the market and it was a case of, that'd be a good idea, we'd like to have that in our cars. Well, they did that. And that really applied to one of the safety items, which was a windscreen kit, as I let Louis down. And so if we go to Salesman's Reference Sheet 61, they've got a water squirter kit called Screen Clean up there. And really it's two water squirters and a bottle underneath the engine bay compartment held in by a bracket, water pipes going up and into the external part of the car, where that water through the vacuum unit can be used by pressing a switch, and that will release water onto the windscreen. Now we accept that as, what's so special about that? It's on our cars every day. Every car that you've bought that's a modern vehicle, well, it'll be there. But in my case, this is 1956. That wasn't there. And pretty much this would have been an expensive thing. And that accessory wasn't even heard of. So just to get it and have it was a real thing. So when you were buying your car, the salesman would have been going through the binder and showing you all the accessories, or showing you on the counter, oh, this is what they all are, or this is what they look like, or oh, they're on an E-Type Jaguar, by the way, or this is what you can get in a Ferrari. Imagine having that on your Holden. So it was a safety feature as well. But in saying that, there was three different types. There was the FJ Holden type with the old Trico, because Trico was a manufacturer, the bracket, and it just really sat in the bracket, and then that sat on your firewall just in front, or underneath I should really say, of your regulator box. And that's where I mounted mine on my FJ Ute. So you had the vacuum type, you had an electric type, or you had a universal type that would go FC, trucks, FB, EK, all the way up. So it's, we're talking about like a grey motor type application, and it was using the vacuum unit, and this was the switch that was on the dashboard. So you drill a hole and it was push that, or there was a bellow type that you could have on the floor, you'd push the bellows, or there was a little pedal type and you'd push that down and it had a bellow on it. So that was providing the squirt part, air in, air out. And so that was providing the propulsion. Vacuum was hooked up. And in doing that, I've made sure that I have brochures for things, because I had one of these on my FJ. I bought a brand new old stock one. I thought it was important to grab these, and when I see things, it's a case of, I like to get hold of them, because not only that, it substantiates the authenticity of the actual piece. Is that, and it's fine to have the sales blurbs and the advertising about it. However, it's another thing. You've got to get the instructions right as well on how to do it and so on. So, that's how I like to do things. Now, I've said, I'll be using, for Project Julius, I'll be using this on the dashboard. And to do all my water connections, this is what they're supposed to look like. We're talking about something that's 70-year-old. However, I needed more parts when I did mine last time in 1990. So I just went to the local aquarium, because it's low pressure water. So I just got those. That works fine. And FJ, 2 singular water squirters that sit halfway along between the windscreen wiper and the centre. That's where I put mine. So the early type, 2 singles, later type double. So that's what you sort of have component wise. So I started off with stuff that was like that. Now I've bought quite a few of these just to sort of put them on the shelf, because I like to end up with one good one. So, I've got that one. I know where the transfer goes, where the water level should be. I know they're all like that, really, unless you get them in a box. They're all like this. And then it's a matter of what do you do with them. So you get that. And so then what I did was I took the time to turn that into that. So, I've put everything on the wire brush to clean all the brass and copper. I've made sure that parts work. I've made sure I can access my hoses and so on. So, I can go to Clark Rubber and get a brand new hose for that, and I can take this piece in there and get, extra return for here. Because at the moment, without looking, I don't know whether it's a breather or what. I can't remember from GWIS 1990 to 2026 what it is. But, what I've done is, this is my choice. This is the one I actually wanted, and I've tried to make it as nice as possible, and also it's a bit of a showpiece as well. So I've put the transfer on the front, the right decal for it, and I've checked out where it actually sits, how far up it goes, and then I've tried to get the decal right as I've eyeballed it down there. I haven't, done the masking tape and measurement and all that sort. I just thought, it's going to go under the bonnet of my FJ Holden. How nerdy do I need to be? So that's what I've done there. And so then the next thing for me is going to be, as part of the install, when I'm finished it all, you want to set it off nice. So I'll just be using the correct windscreen wash for it, and so that's sitting in there in a green engine bay with black apron panels should actually look pretty good. So the art of the restoration part is taking something like that and turning it into that. So one of the next pieces will be actually doing the install into Project Julius, but in the meantime I wrap all this up with bubble wrap. I get all the components, all in plastic bags that are all sealed so that things don't get lost. I keep all the other components with them that came with them out of the kit, and I put them all with the instructions in the one place, and so that everything sits there until I'm ready to actually do the install on Project Julius. So that's what's common between FJ Holden, E-Type Jag, Ferrari and General Motors American products, so that, you know, those Trico windscreen washers are able to be sold all throughout the world, were used in Australia, and are part of being an authorised, genuine Nasco accessory. Don't forget, share, like and subscribe, but more importantly, enjoy your Holden.